Okay, we're here again for the Appleton Team podcast, and we're a week late. We missed a week, and it's difficult to do a podcast. It really is, and that's something that I think that we're figuring out. But it's not easy to do because it involves a lot of preparation and topics and stuff like that, and there's a time commitment too, right? Like we have tried to develop a system here, but at the same time, there's time that goes into it. So we missed last week because we had a lot going on. So we're sorry. Hope you forgive us for that, but we're here again. And I think we got some pretty cool stuff planned today. So before we get into that, how was your weekend?
It was great. I actually attended an event in Toronto with your dad called Archangel Summit. And it was an amazing personal and professional growth summit, the largest in Canada. Heard some great speakers and just was around some big dreamers, which I love to be surrounded by people like that. What about your weekend?
So I had a pretty cool weekend too, and you were part of it, but mainly on Sunday. Well, just pause that. Starting on Friday, Em's family from Saskatchewan has come down, which her brother and his wife and their kids live in Saskatchewan, and so they've come down, and it's always a lot of fun when the whole family gets together and all the kids, nieces and nephews, and just
lots of kids.
Yeah, it's a blast though. Have a lot of fun, and so we've been catching up with them. But on Sunday we had Blair dedicated at the church, which was really cool and really special to have my whole family there and Em's whole family there. So that was really, really cool. And then after that, we celebrated Emily's grandmother's 100th birthday, which is crazy.
That's amazing.
We were celebrating somebody who was less than a year old and went right to celebrating someone who's 100 years old. Just, it's so cool. You don't get to see that very often. So that was a lot of fun. And her family is huge, right?
Yes.
So, and her aunt has such a great property in Wheatley, a really large property on the lake. And basically everybody came. So awesome. There was well over 100 people there, and 100 people for her grandmother's 100th birthday, and her grandmother was just beaming the whole time. It was just so special, super, super cool. And so we both seem to have really good weekends, but now we're back this week to kick off another work week. And so this week, I think what we wanted to talk about was you also have some pretty cool stuff that's going on, and we did announce something on social media that you got your seniors real estate specialist designation. And so I'm going to read from our post kind of what that is, but then I want you to go in depth into it. So it says Kellyanne specializes in meeting the unique real estate needs of clients age 50 and older with a strong focus on downsizing. Her expertise allows her to provide tailored guidance and support, ensuring her clients make smooth and confident transitions to their next chapter. So I know that that's a big focus of yours, and you've dedicated a ton of time to educating people about that and developing resources for people. And, we're starting to implement a lot of that stuff in our business, and that's becoming a large bulk of our clientele. So tell us a little bit about that designation, what it means, and, how you're going to use that going forward.
Well, having gone through downsizing ourselves just recently, I realized that downsizing is, it's not just like a regular real estate transaction. It involves a lot of emotions, all the emotions.
Big time.
Yeah. And so it really is a unique transition for people who are looking to downsize. And I realized that people who are doing this need more than just our regular real estate guidance. They need kind of a step-by-step to walk them through the process. So what I did is I implemented a step-by-step process for myself that helped me walk through it. And now what I've done is I've turned that into a 6-step downsizing roadmap that we can share with our clients that just help remove the overwhelm of downsizing and help make the process a lot easier. I'm not saying it's going to be smooth sailing, because it usually is not, but a lot of the overwhelm can be removed if you follow a process and if you have somebody to guide you through it. So that is why I got my designation. I want to be the specialist in dealing with people 50 and over who are looking at downsizing, because I've walked the journey. And I feel like I have some good knowledge now and some wisdom to be able to share with people.
Mm-hmm. And there's like so many people in the exact same situation as you, right? Like the amount of people we've talked to in Chatham-Kent that are, you know, either empty nesters or anything like that. They have gone through these situations where they've looked around at their house and they've thought, hey, I'm not really making use of all this space anymore, or it fit a different time in my life and it's time to say goodbye to a bigger space and say hello to a smaller space that makes more sense for me and my spouse, or just me and myself, or even for you and your kids. Maybe you have older kids that now can spend more time in the basement, etc., and you just want to find a space that works better for you. So Chatham-Kent is certainly a population that is not really getting any younger.
No.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, baby boomers and those of us in our 50s who are coming up behind the baby boomers, we are a large population and we are just growing. So there is definitely a lot of people who are in exactly the same boat as I was in. And then people who have waited longer to downsize. We were a little bit early downsizing in our 50s.
Yeah.
But I think that people are starting to look more at that, at looking at their big houses and saying, I don't need this anymore. I don't want it. I want more freedom. I maybe want to, use some of the money from my house to do something else. So we talk to people every week who are in a position where they are thinking of making this decision. So this framework that I have come up with, this roadmap, doesn't just involve real estate. It involves really looking at it more holistically. So not just the transaction, but the overall holistic approach to how you can downsize. And to me, that's looking at the whole person. That's we're not transactional realtors. We want to have relationships with people, and we want to ensure that you are fully served in every way when we work with you. And that's why we created this.
Yeah. And that kind of approach is really, really difficult to come up with when you haven't been through it yourself.
Exactly.
Because there's certain things that I'm sure that you've come up with or thought of that beforehand you had no idea, like, oh, I didn't know I was going to feel these things, or I didn't know that this was really, really difficult, this specific thing. And there's just so much more to it than slapping a for sale sign up in your yard and saying, go buy a smaller house that makes sense for you.
Exactly.
There are so many things that go into it. And a perfect example of that too is when we had that downsizing event, what was it, 2 or 3 months ago?
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, we were promoting a downsizing event that we held here at the office. And, we weren't sure how many people would attend the event. Like, we were hopeful because we had done a little bit of research based on the populations and stuff like that, and knowing that this trend was probably coming. And your experience was such a driving factor behind getting out there and doing that. And so we started promoting this event, and it was nuts. It was like sign up after sign up after sign up after sign up. And to the, to the point we thought, are these fake? Remember we were talking about that. We were like, are these bots? Because we just didn't think there was going to be that amazing of a turnout and response to it. But so people from online, from Facebook, Instagram, we promoted it in the paper. And so lots of people called from the print media side of things, and all different populations, right? Like there were people who were your age. Yeah. I think there were people even younger than you.
There were people younger than
and
me.
then we had people that were in their 80s there. Yeah. So it was such a wide variety of people. And the attendance was just amazing. We filled that conference room that we have there. And we're going to be doing another one.
Yeah, we are.
So stay tuned for that, because we're planning on doing something else that's more, it's not as generalized. It's more kind of specialized to a certain topic when it comes to downsizing. So that's something that we're doing. But, when it comes to the amount of people interested in downsizing, that was a perfect indicator. And that the population is, a lot of people are thinking about that, and it really does not matter about a certain age range.
No.
So tell us a little bit about what you're developing, and if you can give us a little tidbit of what you're doing.
So really, this roadmap takes you right from your decision to downsize all the way to designing your new space. And I'm uniquely positioned in that I'm not only a realtor, but I have been a mindset coach. So I'm bringing in a lot of that. And I also do interior design. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of combining those three areas, because I think those three areas pull together beautifully to guide you through the process. So the first step, and I'm only going to reveal the first step today. The first step in making a decision to downsize is to prepare yourself. So before you even think about selling your house, before you think about decluttering any of that, it's really important to prepare yourself. And the first thing that I did, and I really encourage people to do, and you might think it's kind of a silly idea, but grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, sit down on your couch, close your eyes, and visualize. Visualize yourself in a smaller space. Visualize what it would feel like to live in a smaller house. See the things around you, the things that you love, the colors, the light. What does it feel like? That was the first step for me. And that really helped me to make a decision that, yes, that felt good for me. So when you go there in your mind first, then you're really able to start thinking more practically about it. And then there are some questions that you should be asking yourself. And the first one is to get really clear on what are your reasons for downsizing and what is the goal of downsizing for you. Because you're going to go through this process that's going to be challenging at times. And knowing what your goal is, knowing what the end result is going to help you to get through those difficult times. Write these things down. Write it down. What are my reasons for downsizing? What are my goals?
So if you had, sorry to interrupt you. So if you had a top 3 reasons why, and they could line up with what you think, but if you, based on who you've talked to, just for my curiosity's sake, what would you say are the top couple or 3 reasons why people want to downsize that you've heard?
Definitely one is too much space. So if you are in a home where you are using maybe 25 to 30% of it, it just doesn't make sense to stay in that space anymore. And that kind of relates to the tied up equity, because you often have this big house that maybe is worth quite a bit of money and you can't access that money. So that would be one of the reasons. The other is health issues, mobility issues. We're seeing that a lot with people where they're living in 2-story homes and they struggle with the stairs. So being on in a 1-floor home where it's easier to get around, where it's safer for you, that would be another reason. And I would say the third one would be you want to do other things. So you want to have a smaller space that's easier to walk away from. Maybe a turnkey that you can go and travel more. So those would be the 3, I would say, the 3 reasons why a lot of people downsize. There are others. Maybe it's a changing life situation. There's a number of reasons, but you will have your own unique reason. So get clear on it. If you live with a partner or a spouse, are you on the same page? Because if you are, that makes life a lot easier. If you're not, that's going to take some work. So being patient and not rushing things will really aid in that. When I started this journey, my husband was not on the same page
I was
as me.
I was gonna say that as you were talking about that, I was gonna say, I know that was not an easy thing for you, because I remember you being basically all in on that idea relatively early on.
Yep.
And Dad being kind of like, I'm really not sure about this, right? Like,
Exactly.
because you had a really, really nice house that you loved. There's nothing wrong with it.
No, it was beautiful.
And it just really came down to the space, the plans that you guys had, stuff like that. And it took Dad a lot longer to realize that was a good decision. And you weren't exactly on the same page at first. And I recall some of that. So...
But now he says it was the best decision we ever made.
Yeah, he's very happy now. He's very happy now, and I can attest to that. My mom's not just saying that, but it was very much a mental battle for Dad, because he was very attached, and that's something that we find with people that we talk to about downsizing. Like, they may have been in that house for 30, 40 years. You have no idea. And even though it seems like, from an objective point of view, that the house doesn't necessarily meet their needs anymore, there's such an attachment, an emotional attachment that the seller has to that house, that seems to be the trump card for everything. So,
and that's why it's so much more than just a decision to buy a new house to sell, because there is all of the emotion involved. The other thing that you're going to want to do is to talk to your family, to make sure that you have the support to do it. And the reactions might be different. When we first told our children, Dane's our youngest, and we have 2 older daughters. Dane understood what we were doing. The girls did not. They had that emotional reaction, that emotional attachment to our house, and they saw it as our family home, and they didn't want us to give that up. And we often hear that from people where the children say, no, just stay put. But you really have to consider, and you have to talk to your family about what your goals are and what your needs are, and get them on board. That's really important, because you're going to need their help. And that's the next question. Am I willing to ask for help through the process? Most people, because it is a challenging transition, can't do it themselves. Often you are going to be going through a lot of things in your home, possessions, and you're going to have to go through all those things and really decide what's going with you to the new house and what you are going to let go of. And you need help with that. The other thing that if you are emotionally prepared, if you say to yourself right from the get-go, I know this is going to be emotional, and I know it's going to be physically and emotionally challenging, that just helps you prepare yourself. So there's going to be surprises that come up for sure. But when you understand that this is going to be a difficult transition, but knowing that if you keep your goal in mind, that you are going to get to exactly where you want to be in your new space. So then you just have to decide, am I feeling positive about this, or am I not feeling good about this? And really working through those feelings to come up with the decision that makes sense for you. And it's not always an easy decision, but if you feel like it's the right decision, if anything is telling you it feels like the right decision, my experience has been that it usually is.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time that your head may feel a certain way, like, yeah, I think it's time to downsize, but your heart's saying not yet. And it takes a little bit of time for those two things to mesh and for you to actually take the first step. So, like, looking at all that, what's the first step now for somebody to take once those two things are are done and you say, I'm doing this, what's the first step, just in closing, what's the first step that you do after finally visualizing it? Yes, it feels right. Talking to my spouse feels it's right. My kids are willing to help out. They're on board. My heart says it's right. My head says it's right. Let's do this. Okay, now what do I do?
So the next step is to talk to a trusted realtor, because they are going to guide you through the rest of the process. And that's not just going out and looking for a home, but that's coming into your current home, helping you, first of all, to understand the value of your house. What is your house worth on the market? Because that is going to help you determine where you want to go. They're also going to give you an idea of what kind of things should you be doing over the next months or whatever it is to prepare your home for sale, so that you can get the best price for your house and sell it as quickly as you can. So having a realtor and most realtors are, certainly because we're very familiar with this whole process, we're happy to come in at the very beginning. Don't ever feel like you're calling a realtor too soon when you're in the downsizing process, because we understand it is a process. And when you call us in, we know you might be 6 months away from being ready to buy something and to sell. And that's okay, because we understand that this is a process that's going to take some time. So that would be your next best thing, is to choose a realtor who obviously you trust, because this is going to be an emotional process, somebody who's an expert in the market that you're in, and obviously somebody who has some experience with working with downsizers.
Mm-hmm. And that leads me to the last point that you've heard what my mom has had to say today. I truly do believe that she's the person that you should call. We work together, but there's a wealth of knowledge there and systems that have been set up. Like, this is taken very, very seriously, because you know that the decision that has to be made is a very serious one. It takes time, and you're patient with people, because it didn't happen for you overnight, and you know that. And so there's a lot of things that have to be taken into account. So if you're thinking about downsizing and even just want to get that conversation started, call Kellyanne, because I believe that she's the best in the business at that, and has made it a huge priority to help people that were in the same life stage that you were in, but you may even be in a different life stage, but you're still considering downsizing. That doesn't change anything about how you do things. You still know how to handle that. And that's what you do. That's what you are. And you can tell that you care by how you talk about it. So if you're downsizing or considering it, we would love to help you. And if you could say one final thing to somebody who's downsizing, what would you say to them?
Be kind to yourself. It's not an easy process. So be gentle with yourself, be patient, and trust in your intuition.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.